Hi, welcome to Hattoys. So I hope you guys are all having a great day. Today I am showing you the place that I work at called Hattoy's Nursery and Garden Center. It's located in Coventry, Rhode Island, and I have been working here for about 2 to 3 years. This is my 3rd season here, and I finally get to show you guys what this place looks like. So, just to start off, I just wanted to mention that we are at the beginning of June, so we're starting to get out of the spring season into the summer, which means we're actually prepping for the fall, but there's still a lot of really great stuff to see here for the springtime. So right now we're at the front of the store, kind of when you first walk in. Over here against the store, we have a lot of 4.5-inch annuals. I'm not going to go over every single plant and all the varieties of everything, but just so you get a gist of everything that we have here. There's some mixed containers that are all done up and ready if you want to do like little gifts for people for Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day, all that kind of stuff. We have a little sale going on for these hens and chicks where they're buy one, get one, so we just have them displayed at the front over here. And then this section right here is kind of where we have the majority of our lawn ornaments and bird baths that are displayed. So we'll take a quick walk through here and I can just kind of show you what we have in this section. There's a few things that I like over here. Lawn ornaments are not necessarily my favorite thing, but I do really like some of the things that we do have. Like I like those little sunflowers that are over here. There's some cool owls that we have right here, like little rock owls. I do really like these birds that we have as well. And then you can see that there are all different types of bird baths, which a lot of people do actually come in getting bird baths. So just one of those things here. I love these bikes right here. I think this is so cool, just like the colors that it has, and you can see it blowing in the wind. It's like in the 50s right now, kind of overcast, so a little chilly for beginning of June, but kind of the perfect weather actually today to go shopping at a garden center. So moving on from there, we're gonna go back over in this section. There's the whole property is split up into different sections. We kind of have like annuals, perennials, shrubs, trees, bulk products, which actually I forgot to mention over here. We have, if you are interested in some bulk products, we have them all in these buckets right here because everything is down way in the back. You'd have to drive your vehicle down. So we have a little sample of what each one of these products looks like. So there's different mulches, there's different chips of stone, other things if you're working on projects like brick sand, pool sand, just all those different things like that. But they've got this collection here, and then customers can drive their vehicles if they wanted to get some bulk products. And then also they do deliveries as well. So walking over this way, we've got lots of things to look at. There's more of the same thing on this side of the store here. We've got lots of proven winners annuals, as well as on this table right here. Lots of really cool things. One of my absolute favorites and one of our store favorites here is lantana. It seems to be a plant that just everybody really loves for whatever reason. This is the luscious pinkberry blend, but I do really love lantana. Another really popular plant is these scented geraniums, which is known as citronella. So a lot of people get citronella candles, but these are the actual plants that they come from. So you can put these in a container like on your patio and help repel mosquitoes for the entire season. And if you kind of like scratch and sniff it, it smells really good. So I love citronella plants. I have a variegated one at home, which is really cool. Now this section over here is we call greenhouse 1. There's 10 total greenhouses that we have here, but this is the one that is accessible for customers. So there's lots of things that we have over here. I would say just about everything in here are all annuals. And it does kind of change throughout the season, everything that we do have in here. These are our 3-inch accent plants. And then on this side here are these containers that are already done up. These are called dragon wings begonias. I really like the look of these. And the stuff that wants more shade, we put them in this greenhouse because it definitely gets some protection from the sun. We've got lots of big coleus in here that looks really great. And then just a little bit of everything is pretty much what we have in here. So there's tons of New Guinea impatiens, we have begonias, we have verbena, we have osteospermums, all that good stuff. So we just kind of showcase a little bit of everything in this section over here. They're all in these 4.5-inch containers. We do grow a lot of our own plants, and then we do order some in, especially as we start to get low on inventory. But that is one thing that's really fun that I get to work on early in the spring. We usually start probably mid to late February, where we actually start growing a lot of these plants in those back greenhouses. Stay tuned for that for later on in this video, and we are going to be taking a look at those greenhouses in the back as well. So as we continue on, again, just more of those. Another thing that's really cool that we do grow are these like bags that you can hang pretty much from anywhere. We usually do a lot of shade plants because a lot of people will put these bags either on a tree in the shade or they'll put them on their house if it's a shady spot. You can see the back of it here. This is an impatient bag. We kind of do impatiens, begonias, coleus, all that good stuff. But we just hang those up over here. And then back over in this section, I know it's kind of hidden, we have some hanging baskets up here. Those are just kind of mixed everywhere. But then there's a few different things here, like we have all of our geraniums here, which we're actually almost out of for the season, but these are the few geraniums that are left over. Moving on this way, we just have some divine New Guinea impatiens that are in these containers. And then this other side of the greenhouse, your right side, is where we have all of our 4-packs. So we grow these on in the greenhouses. They're a little bit more of a cost-effective option, or if you just need smaller plants to begin with for containers, putting them in the ground, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things mixed in. We've got impatiens, salvia, there's some terrenia right here, zinnias, hypostis, which I think I'm finally saying correctly. We have marigolds over in this section, and then you can see there's just hanging baskets everywhere all above these because that's kind of the main theme that you'll see throughout this whole top section over here. But then we have some celosia, and we don't have a huge selection of maybe house plants necessarily at this garden center just because we focus more on the outdoor stuff, but we do have a pretty good selection of succulents right here. So we keep this collection right over here, and then on top of it you can see there's some gorgeous double impatiens, which, can you believe that can grow in the shade? I just think that's so beautiful. All different varieties of those. But besides that, we're gonna head outside of this greenhouse and we're gonna take a look at the overhang of the greenhouse. And believe it or not, the owner, Mark, actually put this entire greenhouse together. It was actually really cool how it was a kit that they got and they put this whole thing together. So right now we're at the overhang of the greenhouse, and we've got a mix of different things here. You can see there's some fern hangers, but this section right here is where we have all of our herbs. So they're generally in like a 4-inch container or so, and what's nice about these is they're all alphabetized, which makes it pretty easy for customers to take a look at these. So we're starting off like with basil right here. A lot of people like getting basil, and we just try to have a good selection of all different types of herbs for people to use. Now here in Coventry, Rhode Island, we are in a zone 6B, which means that our coldest temperatures get anywhere from about 0 to -10, which we saw -10 this year, which was pretty unusual. So some of these herbs are going to be perennials, and then a lot of them are going to be annuals for our area, but it's really cool to make different herb gardens, herb pots, all that good stuff. There's a few things that I really like, and creeping thyme seems to be a really popular plant as well, so we've started to carry some more of that, and I think people are using that as kind of like a ground cover. So I don't know, really cool plant. Now back over in this section, again, lots of hangers and a few other things that are mixed in. These are our sun patients, just another hanging basket where we just kind of put 3 different colors of sun patients in one pot, and then there's some other things that are mixed in. Continuing on with sun patients, we do things in cycles where we kind of have different products throughout the spring season, and one of the last things that we have are these sun patient pots. So just like the hanging baskets, but it's 3 different ones that are in pots. These are going to be blooming shortly, but those start to look really cool, and it's really cool to see sun patients where they can really tolerate that full sun versus regular impatiens that you think of as more of a shade plant. We have some other containers here, like these marigolds that are in pots. There's a lot of customers that come in around Memorial Day weekend, and they're just looking for a nice container that does well, where they put them in cemeteries for loved ones that they have lost. And a lot of people like to get these kinds of containers because they can thrive in that heat during the summertime, and they're going to look gorgeous. So moving on from here, we're kind of at the end of this overhang because there's actually a retaining wall on your left side over here. But there's a few other things. This is kind of all we have left actually in terms of our thriller section for containers. We like to say that we want to have thrillers, fillers, and spillers for annual containers. So things like purple fountain grass, these asparagus ferns, and then also these dracaenas or cordylands, really great thrillers for those. Now moving back over this way, we have a few other things mixed in. We have this is actually a passion flower, which is really cool. It doesn't have any flowers on it right now. They're kind of dispersed out the way that these flower, but really cool plants. And then another big thing that we do here are these mixed patio containers, which for customers that are not all that keen to gardening and just want something pretty, these are really great because they're all done up. They have a nice mix of flowers in them. This is one of my favorite mixes that we do. And I just love this lobularia. So something really cool. Now, moving on past here, we have the other side, or this whole section really over here, that's on the other side of the store. So a lot of people need potting mix when they're about to cash out. So we have potting mix on either side, just 2 different sizes, a few different products that we have of each one. And then moving on, this is still all annuals. We have tons of annuals here. This is more of the like mixture of combination pots that we have. There's more sun patience here. I'm not gonna go through the details of every little thing. These are really cool. I like these mandavillas. This is actually like a compact variety of mandavilla, and it makes a really cool thriller for your containers. It's not supposed to vine out like crazy like the other ones. It stays a little more tamed is probably the best way to explain it. So things like mandavilla. A lot of people have been asking about plants that are going to attract hummingbirds. So we've grown a lot of the vermillionaire from Proven Winners, which is a great hummingbird magnet. And I really like this plant. I grew it last year, and it's kind of insane that it gets into like a small bush by the end of the season. A few other things that I really like over here. There's this unplugged pink salvia. Salvia has become quite popular. Same thing with these blue suede shoes. I actually did a container in the front of the parking lot over there, which we'll show you during the video as well. And I used some of these things in those containers that look really cool. And then moving on from here, this is our veggie section. So veggie section is looking a little sad at this time of year because usually Memorial Day weekend is when most people plant their gardens around here, just because we're past any frost, which we actually saw a frost like 2 weeks ago. It was not very long ago, which was quite unusual for our area. So I'm not gonna go into the details. We have tons of varieties of all these different things, but generally with each swoop that you see is a different plant. So we've got peppers on this side, we have tomatoes through this whole section over here, and then just a couple of racks where we have things like basil over here as well, more tomatoes, some other little things. We have squash, cucumbers, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, just about anything that you would want in your garden. So lots of things over here. And then this back area, this is the road where you can access, where you would go to get any bulk items. We also do tons of pellets, actually. A lot of people will get pellets from here, like wood pellets for a wood stove. So before you kind of head back over there, we have a lot of our bagged products in this area. So of course, you know, a garden center needs to have mulch. So we have mulch here. There's hemlock mulch, black mulch, cedar mulch, red cedar mulch, this dark pine spruce, which is just like a dark brown, and then some other things. One of the things I always recommend to customers if they don't have the best soil and they're looking to add some stuff in, we have bags of topsoil and then bags of composted manure. I like to recommend mixing a bag of each of these together and mix it with the native soil in the hole. It'll give it some nice nutrients that the plants can grab onto during that first season, and it definitely helps those plants out. But there's some other things. Now we live in New England, and close by to where we live is Maine. And there's a company called Coast of Maine, which makes some really high quality products. Like this one right here, you could see it's called their Quaddy blend. It's organic and natural compost blend with lobster and crab. So a really great product. It's actually the first year that we started carrying this because so many people asked us to carry Coast of Maine products. And it's been quite popular this year. So I think we're gonna keep carrying it for a little while. I'm curious to try this product out myself and see how well it really does work. There's some other things over here, like we have peat moss in a few different sizes. We have another company, which I really like, called Earth Care Farm. They're actually based right out here in Rhode Island. And we have 2 different products from them. On this left side is called Screen Compost, and then on the right side is a raised bed mix. And what's really cool is, from my understanding, they will take like food scraps and food waste from like different restaurants in the area, and they will compost all of that, and then they'll turn it into a product that is really good. I actually used this in my garden a couple of years ago, and everything grew wonderfully using that. Moving on, now we're kind of getting into some structural stuff. So different sizes of cobblestones. A lot of people in our area like to use cobblestones on the edges of their garden beds. So that's a really popular thing that it's used for. And then If you're looking for something to stand on, like big pavers, something that's really popular are these manufactured bluestones. So we've got all different sizes. We've got from 24 to 36 inches, which those are really heavy. I've had to load a couple of those in my time and they are not fun. We've got 18 by 18s, and then we have all the way down to, I think 12 by 12 is the smallest size that we have, as well as some round stones. So these are manufactured. They're a bit more cost effective if you're doing some big projects. So those work pretty well for that. And then just a few other things over here. We have some scalloped edging. There's other palettes if people want to get like a lot at one time, or if they're doing like a rock wall, anything like that. And then back over here, we also have some other natural looking stones if you want to make some stepping stones through your garden and make some pathways. There's things like the gray quartzite stepping stones and then the multicolored as well. So moving on from this section, we're going to go back over here, and now this is going to start the beginning of the perennial section. So there's a lot here, I can promise you that. First of all, starting off over here, we've got kind of the traditional plants. This is called Liriope. It's or lily turf grass. This is a variegated variety. Just a nice, generally evergreen plant in our area. Lots of daylilies. There's different varieties like Stella d'Oro. We have the ruby Stella, and I think there's purple d'Oro are like the three main ones that we have. And then on these tables and right around here are kind of where we have like plants that we order in and just showcase that like are, you know, fresh arrivals, I guess. So right here on my left, there are some stonecrop or sedum. This is one of my favorites that we grew this year. This one is called Frosted Fire. This one's really cool. I think I need to find a space for this in my garden. So I love this one. Another plant that's just starting to pop up is the perennial hibiscus. So these are just starting to grow. I mean, these were literally like this big a week ago, and now you can see just how massive they are. So these grow really fast. We've got some other things. I'm not gonna go through everything, but you know, yarrow, lavender, blue fescue grass, Joe pieweed, which actually is a really great native. These are becoming quite popular as well. Ornamental chives, all that good stuff. Another really popular plant that a lot of people are asking for is Asclepias or butterfly weed. I know these look a little small now, but these will definitely grow during the season. And a lot of people actually don't buy these for the plant itself and for the flowers. They buy it almost as food to have monarchs in their gardens, to save monarchs, which is really cool. I totally support that. It's really cool to see that. And we actually grew so many of them that we were just about out and had to order more in because they're just becoming really popular. So moving on for this side, a few other things. This is Rudbeckia or Black-Eyed Susan. These are just starting to come into their prime. Another really popular perennial for our area just because they do so well. Salvia, poppies, echinacea or coneflowers. Again, just these are a lot of the perennials that people really ask for and that really love to put in their garden, lots of repeats, but they look really gorgeous. There's this variety here, which I know isn't flowering. It's called Green Twister. I think this is a really cool variety, how it's kind of like that traditional purple, but then it has those nice greens on the end. So I really love this. But moving on from there, we've got the rest of this perennial section. So you can kind of see behind me that there's like these metal tent looking structures. This is where we have the rest of our perennials, and then behind that is going to be the shrubs. But right here to your left and my right, we have what we call the fruit wall. So we have strawberries. What's cool about these is we have strawberries in 6-packs. You may have seen this on my Instagram reel because they have gorgeous, gorgeous flowers, or Instagram story, I should say. But there's lots of strawberries here. We've got lots of other fruit, just like we've got rhubarb, we have grapes, raspberries, goji berries, fig trees, which there is like 1 or 2 varieties that are hardy in our area. The most popular is the Chicago hardy fig, which I think just about all of these are the Chicago hardy figs. And then some blueberries, which blueberries, they're more of an earlier season plant that we get a lot of those in, but there's still a few of these that are left over. Let's swing around this way and we'll kind of see. I'm not going to go through all the perennials that we do have, but I'll show you a couple of them. This is one that we just got in that I really like. It's Euphorbia. This specific variety is called Ascot Rainbow. I just love that variegation that this one has. So really cool plant. The perennials are generally organized in terms of their Latin names. They're alphabetized by that. So we have things like Monarda. This is the bee balm. We have balloon flowers over here. We have a lot of dianthus. These are cool because they're like an icy blue color. A lot of these are actually just budded up, so they haven't even really started blooming yet. And then continuing on, we've got some other stuff. There's Coreopsis, there's yarrow or Killia. We have tons of different things, like there's lots of perennials here. There's Perovskia or Russian sage. This is really cool. I like this variety that just came in. This one is called Little Spire, so it's a nice compact variety of the Russian sage. Another plant that I really like that I wanted to show you guys are the perennial geranium. So this one is really cool because it's hard to get blue flowers in the landscape, but this one, they're just such a nice color. It's not even really that purplish color, because a lot of times in horticulture we call purple blue, but it's not really. That actually is quite blue. So I like this. We've got Gaillardia or blanket flowers. You can see we've got some delphiniums, which are just starting to bud up, just starting to look really pretty. Another really gorgeous perennial are these geum plants, which they flower for such a long time. I gotta add these into my garden because they're really gorgeous. I've been eyeing these the last month or so, and they've kind of looked like that for the last month, which is really cool. Poppies, we have cardinal flowers or lobelia. Another really popular plant is lavender. These do really well in our area, so we try to grow a little bit of each variety. Some of them stay really short, like 6 or 12 inches. Some of them get really big, like 3 to 4 feet, which is, or maybe not 4 feet, but 2 to 3 feet, I would say, is pretty good to say for lavender. Another really great plant that I love are catmint or nepeta. This is probably my favorite variety that I've seen so far. This one is called Felix. So this one is just starting to bloom for the season. It only gets 24 inches tall, 12 inches tall, 24 inches wide. So it's a nice compact variety of that nepeta or catmint. Some other things like penstemon, pincushion flowers. And I just wanted to mention, we made these signs for each one of these sections of plants that we have. So it just kind of shows you in the landscape what the flowers are going to look like, especially if the plants aren't flowering at the moment. Like these pincushion flowers look gorgeous, but you can see this right here, the penstemon, these aren't in bloom yet. So you might not know exactly what they're going to look like. And then it just kind of tells you, like, the pincushion flowers, they want full sun, and just some other things like these are deer resistant and they'll attract butterflies. So besides that, there's just a bunch of other perennials around here. This is kind of like our sedum section. We've got a lot of sedum. Some of them are more upright, and then this whole section is more of like our ground cover sedum. They're really great, low maintenance plants. You get a lot of color, like you can see this one here. It's kind of like a reddish orange. And then, there's some other ones that really contrast well that are more of a lightish blue, some that are a deeper purple. So lots of contrast with these plants, which is why they're pretty popular. But moving back over this way, past all of the sedum, we've got a few other things like Veronica or Speedwell. These are just starting to send up their spires right now. And then some more Rudbeckia or Black-Eyed Susans over here. Also in this section, there's not much of it, but we have a few like end caps that are sectioning or that are showcasing just a few shrubs. We just got these ivory halo dogwoods in. If you're looking for a really nice variegated plant that doesn't get too big, these are awesome. They have that beautiful variegated foliage, but then in the winter time when they lose their foliage, they have these gorgeous bright red stems. So just like a regular shrub dogwood, but they have that nice variegated look to them. Now this last tent right here before the other one, you can see that there is a shade cloth over here, and that's because this is kind of marking where our shade perennials are. We don't have as big of a selection, but that's just because there generally aren't as many shade plants. But we have some other things like this Ligularia, we have Brunnera, Solomon seal, lots of hostas. Of course, you gotta have hostas if you're talking about shade plants. There's lamium over here, which this is gorgeous. I mean, look at how beautiful this lamium is. And you can see that the beautiful like clusters of flowers that are just starting to come out. So really love these. We've got a stilby over here. I'm not gonna walk all the way down, but we do have a lot of hostas here. Lots of different varieties. And I wanna show you guys this one in particular, because this one that stood out to me that came in on this shipment. This one is called Whirlwind, and you can just see like how beautiful those leaves look, where they're like a nice deep green, but then they do have that like whitish yellow color to them. So we're starting to up our hosta game for sure. But back over here, we've got just some more things that do well in the shade. Things like ferns. We've got a few different varieties of ferns back over here. And we've actually gotten rid of quite a lot of these because they're one of the most popular shade plants. But heucheras, also heucherellas and tiarellas. Now, I'll give you guys a quick tip. I have not had a whole lot of luck with heuchera in my landscape in the shade, but I would say heucheras do best in a part shade situation. Heucherellas tolerate a little more shade, and then tiarellas can kind of do that deep full shade. So just keep that tip in mind. We've got Hakanakloa, or Japanese forest grass. Really, really awesome shade perennial. I love that. And there's this specific variety that we just got in, which is called Areola. I like this one because in comparison to the other one, it may not be the easiest to see on camera, but the regular one is just kind of like this limey green, yellowish color. And this variety has those stripes of green mixed in. So you get a little more color with that and just a little more interest. You can see there's some small hydrangeas here, types like the Let's Dance Rhythmic Blue. We have the Endless Summer hydrangeas, just probably those names you've heard of before. We try to carry those popular ones, but we have a whole bunch more hydrangeas in this last tented section, which we're moving on from perennials and starting to go for shrubs. So there's some really cool things over here, more of those hydrangeas. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a variegated hydrangea. This I think is pretty cool. So you can see it has that white margin on it, and sometimes they don't always bloom, but you can see this one actually is all budded up. So it has some nice buds on that. I'm excited to watch those bloom. I'm gonna try not to take it home because I like to do that. Guys, the one thing about working at this garden center, it is really hard to not leave work every single day without a plant in my hand. And I can tell you, probably more times than not, that is the case. So moving on, we got lots of hydrangeas over here. This one's really cool. This is from Monrovia, a part of their Seaside Serenade series. This one's called Hamptons. So it has like a nice pink hydrangea, but the flowers on it, they have like a red margin on the end of it. So it's just a really cool interest for hydrangeas, especially because, you know, I don't love a lot of red flowers, but that's pretty cool. We've got some panicle hydrangeas as well. Some of the names like Little Lime, Bobo, Little Quickfire. I think we have a few Limelight Primes moved in or mixed in over here as well. And then some other, which I would say those don't want shade. We just have them because it's our hydrangea section. But then over here is going to be our Pieris or False Andromeda section. Not a whole lot here. We had a few other varieties earlier on in the season, but always a good perennial to have, especially, or shrub I really should say, especially when they are in bloom in the early spring. Moving on over on this side of this shaded area are our collection of rhododendrons. Now this one is really cool. I like this variety a lot. It's a type of Yaku rhododendron, and it has like this fuzziness on the bottom. I don't really know what to call it, but this is actually called an induentum, where it has that fuzzy side on it. So really cool. I'd say the rhododendrons are kind of coming out of their prime. Like you can see this one, the flowers don't look the best. Rhododendrons are kind of in their prime maybe about a week or two ago, and they're starting to come out of it now. But lots of new, healthy, fresh growth. And once again, a really great shadier loving shrub when you just have those tough spots in the garden. Another really cool plant, which I haven't seen a lot of people use, and I hope more people do, is Leucothoe. It's a really great native plant. The flowers look like blueberry flowers, actually. And there's a couple of cool varieties. Like there's this variegated one. There's some that are Silver Run, some that are Gerard's Rainbow. But yeah, you can see the flowers on here too. I just think it's a really cool plant and definitely does well in the shade. So past here, we're kind of getting back into the sun. And this is where we have our ornamental grasses. So we've really tried to up our game in the last couple of years with ornamental grasses, tried to get some new varieties because these are becoming really popular in landscapes, and they're a great low maintenance plant that really just need to prune back once a year, and maybe dividing every 5 years or so. Just be careful if you plant a miscanthus ornamental grass, because some people need a chainsaw to get those things out of the ground. So just keep that in mind. Over here is kind of starting where we have some other shrubs. I will mention too, you might see a few things knocked over. It's been kind of windy today. We tried to pick up as much as we could, but sometimes the wind just gets them all. But yeah, over here we've got a mixture of junipers, skip laurel, cherry laurel, some yews, some larger boxwoods. We do have some other boxwoods besides this. And then just a few Japanese maples. We've actually got a whole section for that afterwards, but we'll take a look at that after. What we're going to be walking into now is the shrub section. So we've got some really cool things to look at. I know we mentioned some other shrubs over here, but those are kind of the shade-loving shrubs. The rest of everything that's all in this area behind me, these are all going to be sun-loving shrubs. So full hot sun all day long is going to be best. Some of them can tolerate a little more partial sun. And there's some things mixed together, but we've got a good selection of things. A few plants have been really popular, and we're trying to order more in because we keep losing them because people are realizing how awesome of shrubs they are, like spirea. So you can see this spot's a little empty just because we've been getting rid of a lot of spirea. They're a really great low maintenance shrub that are easy to care for, and if you do prune them back halfway throughout the season, especially like the double play or little flirt varieties, those ones will rebloom again for you about midsummer. There's a couple of those. There's a bunny behind me. We like to have, there's a lot of bunnies around here, and sometimes they can nip at some plants, but usually it's not too bad. There's some potentilla right here, which that looks like it's just budding up. It's gonna be starting to bloom now. And then another really popular plant has been euonymus. There's a few that are left over here, but we had some really gorgeous like yellow and green variegated euonymus, which a lot of people like to use, especially because they're low maintenance. There are a few Chamaecyparis, or like the gold mops is what you might know them by. These have kind of been a classic plant for kind of a while now, but I like the look of them quite a bit. They have that bright yellow color and really stand out against a lot of other shrubs. But moving on from there, we have some other plants over here that you might be familiar with, like azaleas. We've got a pretty good selection of azaleas. It's actually this whole row that's right over here, and we've got different varieties. One of them, like this here, which is pretty cool, is called an encore azalea. You can distinguish it by this purple pot. It already bloomed once in the season, but it will rebloom again at the end of the season. So we have the encore azaleas. We've got other types. Some of them are doubles, some of them are singles, different varieties like that. And then we have an end cap right here, and I just wanted to mention that for each one of these end caps in the shrub section, this is kind of where we showcase the different types of mulch that we have, like I mentioned in those buckets. So here is the red cedar mulch that we do have. The next one over is a black mulch. Then we have the hemlock blend of mulch. That's the third one down. And then the last one is going to be our brown mulch. So it just kind of shows a little bit of a landscape situation of kind of what those mulches look like, which I think is a really smart idea. And then there's just like a mix of random shrubs that kind of just showcase some things on either side. This side over here, we've got the classic PJM rhododendron. These are really cool plants. Love the look that these get in the winter with those deep purple leaves, and then they flower really early on in the season. This general area, for the most part, are going to be our hollies. So we've got things like blue hollies. A really popular plant is this Goshiki false holly. You can see that they have some of their new growth now, but this new growth can also turn to this like yellowish color. So you get a lot of really cool yellow and kind of speckled growth on it during the season. We got a couple different sizes of that. Then right here, these are kind of interesting. So these are crepe myrtles, and crepe myrtles were never hardy in this area, but there are a couple of varieties that are hardy around here. So we did decide to bring them back again because a lot of people were asking about them, but there's a couple that are hardy to zone 5. So I think if you put them in the right spot in our climate, then they can make it. If they're in a really exposed spot, then they may not necessarily make it over the winter, especially if we had -10 degrees like this winter. But besides that, we have some native hollies, another really great native plant. This is the Ilex glabra, or the inkberry holly. And then one of my favorite plants that we have here are these Globe Colorado blue spruces. I mean, just look at the color on this. It's like a nice, bright blue. It's compact. It pretty much can fit anywhere. They don't get too big over time. And I just think that they're really gorgeous. This next row over here, we have, these are great space-saving shrubs. So we have like an upright plum yew, which these are pretty interesting. I think they have an interesting look to them. And the new growth is like a nice bright yellowish green color. Then here we have, these are probably like second or third most popular plants that we sell here, which are the, I can't even think of the name right now, the sky pencil hollies. So they grow kind of interesting, but they're pretty cool plants. I really like these long stalk hollies. They're a nice evergreen, basically tree, like a small tree. Then we have just a bunch of other ones. We're kind of moving into Japanese hollies right now, Ilex crenata. a few other blue hollies, and another really cool holly that I like from Monrovia is called, it has a very strange name. It's called Berry Magic Kids Holly Combination. I have no idea why, but hollies have male and female plants. So what they do is they actually stick one of each in a pot, and you get pollination, but you also get the berries in them. So cool plant. I like this one too, which is called Spring Surprise. This one's a really cool blue holly where it's like bright, bright yellow foliage that's kind of variegated, and then it eventually fades to more of that green color. So we're gonna swing around to the other side, and then we're going to take a look at some more of the evergreens. I will mention the sprinklers are on, so we're not going to get too close to some of these other things, but we'll still be able to take a good look at them. Lots of arborvitaes, junipers, false cypresses. That's kind of what's mixed in over here. We've got a lot of variegated and yellow-toned plants here, which the yellow tones are really great when you have a lot of green in your landscape. I really like a couple of these plants. This one here is called Sea of Gold juniper. You're probably gonna see this in my landscape at some point. It only gets like 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, but it has such a gorgeous yellow foliage to it, which I love. A few other things. We've got like this plant here, which is Picea orientalis aurea pendula, a weeping golden oriental pine. I think that's really cool. And then we have barberries here, which barberries are really great for, nice, low maintenance color. I like this deep purple color. We just got a whole bunch of barberries in, as you can see. So these look really pretty. And then there's some more on this section. We have like some of the reddish colored ones. And yeah, just lots of evergreens kind of in this section. I like these, I think they're Scott pines. Yeah, Globe Scott pines. Just some really interesting things that I haven't seen at other places, like these blue tinted dwarf Alberta spruces. I love that like nice blue color that they have, whereas the other ones can have a little more of like a yellowish appearance. We've got weeping Norway spruces. We've got a black dragon cryptomeria, Japanese umbrella pines. We've got some other, golden arborvitaes and false cypresses. So just some really cool options. I'm not going to go over every single thing, but definitely some of them. So we do have the sprinklers on. We forgot to shut them off before, but it's no big deal. We have lots of other plants over here, so we're just going to kind of quickly look through this. But things like weeping white pines, we've got some magnolias over here, actually some yellow flowering magnolias, which I think are really cool. Just kind of, some of them are repeats, like we have more dwarf Alberta spruces. There are some plants here that are in a standard form. So like we have this standard, or 9-bark on a standard. I think that's really cool. Instead of it being a shrub form, it's a tree form. Things like panicle hydrangeas on a standard. And then we have some other really cool plants that I feel like not a lot of people use, like things like Japanese stewartia, Japanese tree lilacs. We have dawn redwoods. This one's a variegated variety, which also has kind of like a whitish color to it. You can kind of see that in the needles. And then this section over here, let's actually walk back this way. Looks like the sprinkler shut off, so we're good. Okay, we got ginkgos over here. We have mimosa trees. Mimosa trees are really interesting because they become really popular and everybody looks for them when they start blooming out in people's landscapes. So you can see they're budded up right now, but they're a very tropical looking tree that can actually survive in our area. I think they're hardy down to a zone 6. We've got a southern magnolia, a few repeats of what was on the other side. So you can kind of just see the same stuff over here. This is a weeping Alaskan cedar. I think these have such a cool shape to them. I really love those. And that's pretty much it for that side. But this side over here, we have blue atlas cedars, which, I mean, look at the gorgeous blue color on this. I really do love these plants. There's other things like weeping, or not weeping, but Norway spruces. Normally I talk about weeping ones. This is a really cool variety. So this is a Colorado blue spruce, but it's a specific cultivar called Sparkler. And it's not as vibrant as when it first came out, but the foliage is actually more of like a yellowish color. So you can see some remnants of that. And then it fades to more of that bluish color as it grows for the season. Very interesting plant. I haven't really seen like a mature one of those yet, but I would love to see that. Other things like a columnar eastern white pine. We have some other Chamaecyparis, false cypress. These are the largest size of the dwarf Alberta spruce that we have because they're really popular plants for people that just kind of want something that you don't really touch once you plant it. And then this section over here, I think is quite interesting. So we have some things like this globe Colorado blue spruce, and they're on a standard. Same thing like this blue star juniper. They're just, they're grafted in a way where they actually can be lifted up, and you don't have to kind of like bend over in the garden to look down at it, but you can actually see it. It's like almost at eye level, depending on which one you end up getting. Some repeats, and then this is kind of our topiary section. So you've got like these pom-pom junipers, which these are pretty cool. I actually like these quite a bit. We've got these two, which I forget what we call these. I think we call these poodle junipers. So interesting name. And then some other evergreens. This is kind of like our big evergreen section where we have some larger specimens, things like American holly, some other larger Japanese holly. One of my absolute favorite plants has got to be the Japanese white pine. I think these look so cool. They're very much in their infancy, but they're gonna look so much better as they grow. And then this section over here, I just wanted to mention, a lot of the plants that we have are B&B, which is considered balled and burlapped. So that's a really great example of it. So they're not necessarily in pots, but they're just kind of like that. And then you can take off the strings and the burlap, and then you can plant those right in the ground. Colorado blue spruces right over here as well, that nice blue color. There's some pretty large blue atlas cedars. You can see, I'm 5'7", I know I'm short, but you can see how tall these plants are here. So it's nice to see some like really mature specimens for that. And then what's really cool, one of the most popular plants I would say in New England landscapes around here, or at least southern New England because they're not super hardy, are weeping blue atlas cedars, the weeping specific cultivar more so than just the tree form. And this one's really cool. So it starts up at the bottom, it gets kind of contorted, it's just the way that the growers do it. It goes all these crazy ways and fills in, and then it just comes straight down after that. And this will just get much thicker over time and you'll have that gorgeous blue color. Moving on from here, there's just a couple other evergreens like a columnar or very narrow growing Norway spruce, some weeping Norway spruces. These are actually quite large and they've developed some really big cones this year, which is pretty cool. So I like those. There's a couple of black pussy willows here. And then moving on from this side over here, this back area is where we have all of our fruit trees. A lot of people like growing fruit trees around here, so we try to have a little bit of everything when it comes to that. Over here we have some peaches, and then moving on, we have a few different varieties of pears. There's some regular pears, Asian pears, and then we have a few cherries as well. There are some cherry trees mixed in, and then apples. We have some trees that are just one specific type like this, and then we have others like this one behind here where each branch has a different variety. They graft it together and you can have 5 different varieties of apples on one tree. So I think that's pretty cool for apple trees. So moving on from here, it looks like we've got a few other sprinklers that are on, so we'll try to avoid them as best as we can. I think they're only on for a little bit, so maybe they'll shut off. But we have winterberry hollies on this side over here. They're all budded up, just starting for the season. We have Weigela over here, or Weigelia. This is another really popular plant that a lot of people, as soon as they see them, they like to take them because they're a pretty low care plant. There's actually some mock oranges here too, which I think these are cool because these have double white flowers. Right behind over there are these butterfly bushes, another really popular plant, and all different sizes. Some of them are 2 feet, some of them are 8 feet tall, just the sizes that they end up getting to be. A couple other really cool things. Another really popular plant that we have is this dappled willow. You can see that the new foliage starts off as like a pink color, then it fades to just white, and then it ends up being kind of that variegated white and green. So we have those in shrubs, and we did have some tree forms of that as well. There's some smoke bushes over here, that deep, deep purple color, and those are all budded up, getting started for the season. We're gonna kind of work our way over here. The sprinklers are on, so we're gonna try to avoid them as best as we can. But we have 9-barks over here, which these 9-barks are really cool because they have a nice deep purple color. Some of them are more purple than others. Look at this, we get a nice shower going on over here. So nice deep purple color with the 9-barks. We have tree forms of them like we saw over there that are in bloom. And then past here are all roses of Sharon. So roses of Sharon, viburnums. The viburnums continue on to this side, and then past here we have boxwoods. So these are all the boxwoods. We have different varieties like Green Mountain, Green Velvet, Green Tower, and then we also have a couple of variegated ones as well that you can see right over here. The last thing in this section is just going to be where we have some junipers. So we have blue star junipers over there. We have a couple of other spreading ones. These are pretty much all ground cover ones. And then there's a couple of the Russian cypress or Russian arborvitae as well. And that completes the shrub section. So let's take a look at the Japanese maples and the tree section. Okay, so just to give you some sort of sense of space of where we started, this is the beginning of the shrub section, and we're gonna walk this way. So right here, we have some Japanese maples. Unfortunately, a lot of them actually fell over just because of the wind. And if we pick them up, they're just gonna keep falling over. So that'll be a thing for tomorrow. There's a few trees that are mixed in, like that are not Japanese maples. We have some Rose of Sharon standards that are mixed in, but the majority of them are gonna be these Japanese maples. And we have lots of them because they're a really popular plant around here. We have like the fern leaf shrub forms of Japanese maples, and then we have some tree forms. There's a couple really cool varieties that are mixed in. This Japanese maple is called Oridano Nishiki. And what's cool about this one is some of the new growth, it's kind of like that dappled willow where it has like that pink and white, and then it eventually fades to green, but it has some of that variegation. So it's not just a green Japanese maple, it has that mixed in. There's a few magnolias here too, some of those smaller magnolias. And I think they're all different flower colors. But then on this side, again, just continuing on, these are like the shrub forms of Japanese maples where they have that lacy leaf. There's green and there's purple ones. Those are some of the more mature ones that we have, and there's smaller ones as well. And then there's some other really cool ones mixed in. This Japanese maple is called a fern leaf full moon maple, which if you want to take a look at this tag here, that's what that fall foliage looks like. So like a nice orange color, which you don't get a whole lot of orange when you're talking about fall color. A few other things mixed in. This is a weeping Japanese maple called Ryusen weeping Japanese maple. I think that's what it is. It has these nice arching canes. I do really like the look of this one. And it's a nice kind of chartreuse green color that it has, like a nice bright green color. A few other cool ones like the coral bark Japanese maple, same color leaves, but you can see that the new the branches, they have this red color, which actually deepens to an even more deep red in the winter time, just like how those ivory halo dogwoods did. So we're going to walk to the other side of this road, which, by the way, this road, if you continue down it, that's where you get your bulk products from. You can keep going down and take a left, but we're taking a look over here at where our tree section is, this back area over here. So starting off over here, we have a bunch of different types of red buds. So like this one here is like the classic forest pansy with the nice deep purple leaves. And then this one here is a weeping one. This one's called Ruby Falls. It has the nice arching canes. I really love red buds. I think they're a really cool plant. As we continue on, there's things like birches. We have like the clump of river birches, which a lot of people are looking for. There's things like the Himalayan birch, and I'm gonna try to limit my time on Kusa dogwoods, but there's some really cool varieties. This one right here is a weeping Kusa dogwood, which I haven't really seen many people plant these before. I think it's a really cool replacement for a weeping cherry because those are very popular. So really cool plant. And then this is a variegated one called Wolf Eyes. This one's kind of in its prime right now. It has the beautiful variegated leaves, and then you can see the flowers that are like just kind of an off-white creamy color. So love the look of that. It ends up being just a very small tree. There's a couple of other ones, a couple other variegated ones like this one. What's this variety called? This one is Morning Sunshine. As you can see, it has kind of that nice yellow variegation, and then yeah, another Kusa dogwood, and this one has more of that variegated with the white. So moving on from there, we're gonna go back up this way. We'll take a look at some other trees. Another really popular tree that a lot of people look for are cherries, Kwanzaa flowering cherries. So these are the upright trees, and then there's weeping cherries as well. We've got lots of different sizes of the weeping cherries, things like the snow fountains, all that good stuff. The purple leaves that you see are the plums. Looks like we're actually getting a little bit of sunlight now. So plums. Then we have other things like maple trees. Obviously you want some classic maples. We've got the purple leaf Norway maples. We've got a few pear trees. And then back over in this section, we have, this is like a columnar purple leafed beech. I think these are really cool. Slow growing tree, but definitely a nice space saver and really awesome color that these plants tend to have. Some other things like the Colorado blue spruces that are weeping. We've got those back over here. And then something that I really haven't seen before is this weeping crab apple. So these have already flowered for the season, but they're starting to develop their berries or their little crab apples. So you can see those there. But yeah, weeping crab apples. I haven't really seen them before. We've got a few other things like tulip trees, some gorgeous full-size weeping willows here. These are looking pretty cool. We've got a few oaks, and that pretty much completes the tree section. We just have like a lot of the same trees. This section over here is kind of overstock, and also for landscaping that we do. There's a lot of landscaping projects where customers will come in, they kind of show what their house looks like, and then we can work on some projects for them, install plants, all that good stuff. And then this back section, everything that you see behind me, except for like a few plants here and there, this is going to be our arborvitae section. So a lot of landscapers will come in and they will do big projects where they might need a lot of arborvitaes, or customers come in and they're looking to create green fences, living fences, things like that. So the two main types that we have are green giant arborvitaes and then emerald green arborvitaes. They're in all different sizes. This green giant, you can see how big it is compared to me. So this is probably like an 8 or 9 footer. Again, the wind kind of took some of these down. And then you can see that there's a lot of these emerald green arborvitaes. This is, I think, considered a 5 to 6 footer. So you can see this one right here. So lots of different arborvitaes, and that kind of completes our tree section. So I think we have a pretty good selection of trees over here, and obviously lots of arborvitaes. Now, let's take a look at some of the greenhouses where we actually grow a lot of those annuals and perennials in. So walking on this road over here is where the trucks would go to get their bulk items, like I mentioned before, and this is the start of where we have our greenhouses. So on your right side over here is where we have greenhouses that start with number 2. So I mentioned that we have greenhouse 1, which we walked through already, and we have 2 through 10 that go down this road. Here on your left side is going to be some overstock customers that buy plants that are either going to be delivered, or if they're going to come and pick them up and just didn't have the chance to get to at that time. They're all kind of off in this section over here. And then the rest of this back over here is just kind of like our overstock. So the other thing I wanted to mention about these greenhouses is some of these greenhouses we are getting ready for mums, and just have a few other spare things in here. So let's take a walk through here. And a really cool thing that we do here at Hattoy's is our neighboring town in West Warwick. They have pots that go up all throughout the town that we started at least a few years ago. They give us these pots. We fill them up with Supertunia Vista bubblegum. And you can see all these containers that are by me. I mean, they're big pots. Like, look at how massive one of these pots is. So definitely quite large. They have the self-watering reservoir at the bottom here. And what they do is they will come and pick them up any day now, since we're at the beginning of June. And I think the firefighters go by a few times a week, and they water them, they get fertilized, and they look gorgeous by the end of the season. So that's where all these are going to be going to, but these are ready to be picked up any day now. I mentioned mums before, and we are at the beginning of June, which means that it actually is the beginning of mum season, believe it or not. So in between greenhouses 4 and 5 here, we have all of these like fiber pots, the ones that are biodegradable. These were just filled today. They're going to be lined up against these 2 greenhouses on these wooden pallet tables. And we are getting our mum plugs in this week. So those are going to be planted, and these will be our first round of mums that we're going to start growing. So when you think about mums in the fall, this is when they got to get started. Moving back over here, you can see just more rows of overstock plants. It's pretty much all the same stuff that we looked at before, but just a continuation of that, so that way as things run out in the front, there is going to be stuff available. And this is greenhouse 6, which is one of the there's 2 greenhouses that are still open for the season that have annual plants in them. So this is kind of what it looks like during the season. Even this greenhouse is actually quite empty compared to what it looks like in the springtime. But this is all the stuff that is still back here, that's still ready to be sold, that we just don't have room for up in the front. So we do grow all of this stuff. Lots of hanging baskets, some 4.5-inch annuals, some other larger things. And if anything is looking a little sad and needs to be resurrected, then we'll bring them back to these greenhouses and care for them until they look good again. So we are walking down to greenhouse 8, which is the other one that is open. And it's just kind of a continuation of before, just a mix of different things. We've got some other stuff that's back over here, more hanging baskets, some other larger pots, and then more 4.5-inch annuals. So just kind of a continuation of this. But these greenhouses, I think they're 96 feet long. They're kind of the arched style. And this is what we grow in from February until June. So as we're walking out of 8, this is where we are walking over to the bulk products that are in the back over here. So if customers have a pickup truck available, then they can get these products by driving down this road. And this section over here is a lot of the stone and rock that we have. So there's natural stone, there's blue stone, lavender stone, rose stone, different types of sand. We've got pool sand, we've got brick sand. So that's where these piles are over here. I'm not gonna go crazy showing you all the piles. I mean, it's just rocks. But back over this section is where we have the mulch. Now, mulch is in 2 different sections because we have a lot of landscapers come in where sometimes they need 10 yards at a time or something like that. So the big piles of mulch are way in the back. And then heading back up this road is where we have the smaller piles of mulch if just residential customers are coming up and they only need maybe a couple of yards at a time. On this section over here, you can see that there's like a trailer backed in over here and also a couple of sheds. And this is where we have some storage for things like the pots that we use, fertilizers that we use, and there's some other storage areas that we have on the property for storing all of those kinds of things. We have a lot of grass seed that we have to store as well, so a lot of those are in trailers. But you can see over here is where the smaller piles of mulch are, and we have things like the brown mulch, black mulch, red cedar, hemlock blend, playground mulch, which is one that doesn't have any dyes in it, and then pure hemlock too, which doesn't have the dyes in it as well. Moving on from here, we just have some more overstock of shrubs. A lot of them are evergreens, and just extra stuff in case we're running out at the front. I just wanted to mention this area pretty quick. This is where some of the trucks are stored over here. So like this is one of the landscaping trucks. They do cut grass around in this area, do landscaping, trim shrubs, all that kind of stuff. So if you live nearby, you might see these trucks on the road. And then there's a couple of tractors over here for moving stuff around and doing some other work on the property. So I just wanted to go over just a little bit of history while we're walking back over to the front of the store, because it's definitely quite interesting. So the owners, Mark and Denise Hattoy, opened Hattoy's in 1986. So they've been in business for quite a while. And it first started off with a very, very small section. Basically everything we're walking through right now was woods at one point. And they had a few annuals, they had a few perennials, they had a few shrubs. They didn't really have many trees, and slowly over time they just kept expanding and expanding, and they had some other people join in the business. I'm actually not a part of their family, but they have some of their family, they have some other coworkers. Everybody is really awesome here. I love working at this nursery. They're not paying me to say this, I hope you know that. I'm just wanting to show you guys this tour of this, but it's a really great place to work, and it's been really fun being here for 3 years now. So I didn't mention this section before, but over here we have some ground covers like ivy, pachysandra, vinca, all that kind of stuff. There's a few lantana trees that are left over for the season. We've got some dipladenia over here, but the rest of this I would say are all shrubs and perennials. These are all of the vines that we have. We have things like clematis, wisteria, trumpet vines, honeysuckle. This happens to be my favorite variety of honeysuckle. I actually planted one up on the hill on a fence that it can grow on. This is called Harlequin. You can see it has that gorgeous variegated foliage, and the flowers start off as like a purplish pink, and then they fade to more of like an orangey yellow. There's some more of these containers that are like those marigolds back over by the overhang. That one was celosia. There's a few 6-packs left of annuals, and then some zinnias over here as well that are in those containers. We've got a mixture of some other things. These are just Super Tunia Vista bubblegum that are in a larger container as well. These are really cool late season annual if you need something that is already a good size. And then back over here, this is really cool that we set up from Monrovia. This is actually our like pollinator garden that we have. So it's all shrubs and perennials that are really great for attracting pollinators. And we have this thing going on right now with Monrovia where you can scan this code or enter online and you could potentially win a free plant. So we got 10 plants that we're going to be giving out. So really cool. A few plants that are mixed in. There's snake roots, bleeding hearts, echinacea, agastache, yarrow. There's some aronia. We've got turtle head, perennial geranium, monarda, liatris. What's this one? Beard tongue. Lots of different things. So that's kind of, it's actually a thing through Monrovia, but I think it's really cool that we have that going on. We have some peonies left. They're kind of at the end of their season, but still look really gorgeous. And then on this side of me is where we have our rose section. So we have a lot of carpet roses here. Those are actually a pretty popular type of rose that we have. But there are some other ones that are mixed in as well. So we have the Monrovia carpet roses. We have the drift carpet roses. And then besides that, we have some shrub roses. So knockout roses are pretty popular. We have the petite variety of the knockout rose. These seem to just bloom all season. These are a really cool rose and super low maintenance, which I like about those. We have some shrub roses that I mentioned, some more knockout roses. These are actually more carpets. So we do have quite a few carpets. A lot of our shrub roses ended up selling. And then we have the hybrid tea roses and the Floribunda roses over here. So a couple of interesting varieties. There's a few that I really liked. This one in particular, which it doesn't have a flower on it. This one's called Kiss Me Kate. This is actually a climber, so it's not a regular rose. But this one here. And then back over here are like the beach roses. These are ones that you would find a lot at the beach down in Rhode Island. So very pretty flower, extremely thorny, like extremely thorny. That's all I can really say about that. And then just a couple of other varieties. We still have a couple of David Austin roses as well. This one is called a Wallerton Old Hall. It's an English climbing rose and no flowers on it right at this moment, but there are a couple like this Charisma Floribunda rose that has such a, maybe scarlet is the best color to use. It's such a vibrant reddish orange, and it contrasts really nicely to the other ones. So there's not too much over here. We're kind of getting stuck in this corner over here, but there's a few more of these trees here that are kind of like a standard tree. So some Rose of Sharons, and then you can see these are actually a carpet rose that also is on a standard. And that's it for this section. So as we're walking over here, I wanted to show you this really quick. This is actually a new parking lot that they just added 2 years ago, I believe, because at one point in the spring, people had to park on the street and there just were not enough spots for everything. But right here is a container that I did this spring that has a King Tut, Blue Suede Shoe Salvia, there's 2 Limoncello Super Tunias, a Mini Vista Indigo, a Luscious Pinkberry Lantana, and then 2 Dichondra Silver Falls in this container. And to top it all off, there's one of these big owls in here, which is really cool. It actually blows in the wind and kind of goes back and forth, as you can see, just like that. And then over here, they are closed right now because we do close them for the night. But behind me where you see those red sheds, that's where we store all of our grass fertilizer, and then a few other things. One really cool product that we have is called cocoa mulch. It's like coconut or cocoa shells that's left over in the process of creating chocolate. And it actually makes your garden smell like chocolate. It's very strange. It's really cool. In fact, actually, let me show you one of these bags. So in here, normally these are open during the daytime, but this is what the cocoa mulch looks like. Cocoa shell mulch right here. It's a really interesting product. We had a hard time getting it for a few years, but you can see it just is like little pieces, little shreds, and I'm telling you, you open the bag and it smells like chocolate. It's really cool. We got lots of other products in here. It's just bags though, nothing really interesting to see. But we'll head back over to the front and we will end out the video by showing you what the store looks like inside as you're getting ready to cash out. So as we open the door, there is a lot in this small space. So there's a lot to look at in this store. We're not gonna go over everything, but we'll go over at least a little bit. This first section over here is where we have lots of different types of fertilizers and also grass seed. Just pretty much a little bit of everything of what you might need. There's a few bags of potting mix, grass seed. We sell grass seed in large, either 50 or 25 pound bags. And then we also have our own smaller bags if you're just doing a small space that maybe you only need 7 pounds or 3 pounds of grass seed. So that's kind of what this wall is over here. There's a few spinners as well. We have like these hot air balloons that spin. So those are kind of still in their packages. So that's one section over there. More of the grass seed in this section. We've got these like mailbox covers that wrap a mailbox if you want to do something a little more decorative. Wood stove for when it gets cold in the wintertime, and also to showcase the pellets that we do sell, which we didn't even go over pellets today, but there's a whole pellet field where we will store them, which is all behind the trees and arborvitaes. This is the wall where we have tools. I got to be careful where I'm walking. Lots of tools. Really anything that you might need in terms of gardening. Some seed starting stuff. This section over here is for hummingbirds. There's feeders, there's food, all that good stuff. And then this section right here, we have any type of hooks that you might need for hanging baskets. There's a couple of trellises too, like a clematis would grow really well up here. Yeah, so lots of different things. We've got a few seeds. We don't have a ton of seeds, but there's a small selection of seeds that are available, some flowers, some veggies, all that good stuff. Down this aisle over here, underneath this beautiful arbor, we have all of our fertilizers. So we have a lot of the Espoma products, and something really funny that one of my coworkers started doing was kind of showcasing one product for each customer, and she also loves to choose the absolute worst pictures for all of us. I talk a lot about Espoma Biotone starter fertilizer, so that's the product that she chose for me, which it's a pretty good product for her to choose for me because I do talk about it a lot. But another thing that we do have is the Jack's Classic Blossom Booster. This is another really highly used product, which my coworker Richard recommends. And this one is great for any flowering annuals that you might have during the season, any hanging baskets. Great to fertilize them on a weekly basis. Yeah, lots of other fertilizers, things for evergreens, things for trees. We have perlite, vermiculite, all that good stuff over there. Moving on to this row over here is where we're going to have all of our troubleshooting things that you might need. So we have insecticides, herbicides, we have repellents. A lot of people come in asking about repellents for squirrels, deer, rabbits, all that good stuff. So there's a lot of great things that we do have over here. One thing that I like using is this Repels All that comes in this spray. It also comes in like a granular one, and it seems to work pretty well. We also have some other companies. There's a local company called Everguard, which we carry their products for. You can see this one here. So this is for small animals, and everybody that uses this seems to have really good luck with it. So if you're looking for a good repellent for small animals, or even squirrels, deer, all that kind of stuff, they seem to have some really great stuff. Besides that, not a whole lot left in the store. We have some dram watering products, really great company if you need any of that kind of stuff. We have some weed fabric, and then there's a few other things that are mixed in. We have some of these gazing globes over here, and then just a few other things like these Corinthian bells over here. So looking for some sort of wind chimes. I know some people come in specifically looking for these. So those are pretty cool. And then when you're all ready to cash out, we got the register here. And there's a couple of really cool things. One thing that I really love that we started to carry is there is a woman who lives nearby who makes goat milk soap. And every season she comes out with new ones. So this is the spring stuff. And so like this one is Caribbean Breeze. And they're just really beautiful the way that they look. So like there's that one. We've got pink peony. We've got pina colada. So lots of really cool things. And then also some local honey that comes from, I think, a neighboring town of Warwick. That's not too far away from here. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. So that is a little bit of a wrap on Hattoy's Nursery and Garden Center. They have a website, so I will link their website down below if you want to check them out. If you're local, please stop by, say hi. I'm here for the summer if you're watching this shortly after the video goes out. Besides that, I hope you guys like this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to let them know in the comment section down below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Besides that, I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you in the next one.